The stars above the small desert town of Silver Ridge had always been a source of wonder for Daniel. As a child, he would lie on the cracked earth beneath the vast sky, staring at constellations that seemed to pulse with secrets older than humanity itself. But tonight was different. Tonight, the heavens shimmered not just with light but with possibility. Daniel stood outside his modest home, one hand gripping the edge of his jacket and the other clutching a small velvet box in his pocket. The cool metal of the ring inside felt foreign yet familiar, like it carried both the weight of his dreams and the fragility of hope. He glanced nervously at the glowing orb hovering silently above the horizon, a ship unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Its surface rippled faintly, as if alive, reflecting hues no human eye could fully comprehend. It wasn't supposed to end this way. When they first met 3 years ago, Daniel hadn't even believed in extraterrestrial life. He was simply an astronomer working late nights at the observatory, mapping distant galaxies when something extraordinary happened. A beam of silvery light descended from the sky, bathing him in warmth so pure it felt almost holy. And then she stepped out of the vessel, not some monstrous alien figure from science fiction, but a being so breathtakingly beautiful that words failed him. She called herself Lyria, though her voice didn't come through sound alone. It resonated within his mind, weaving emotions into every syllable. Her skin shimmered like liquid moonlight, shifting colors with each subtle movement. Eyes deeper than the void between stars gazed at him curiously, filled with intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Yet what struck Daniel most was how gentle she seemed, her presence radiating kindness despite their obvious differences. Their bond began innocently enough, awkward exchanges of knowledge, attempts to bridge worlds separated by unimaginable distances. She learned about Earth's history, its art, music, and culture, while he marveled at the wonders of her civilization. Cities built among asteroid belts, energy drawn from starlight itself, philosophies rooted in harmony rather than conquest. Over time, those meetings turned into something more profound. Shared laughter over clumsy misunderstandings, quiet moments where language became unnecessary, and eventually, stolen glances that lingered longer than they should have. But now, here he was, standing under the endless expanse of space, ready to ask her a question that defied logic, reason, and perhaps even destiny itself. Could love exist across such vast divides? Was it possible for two souls from entirely different universes to find unity? Lyria emerged from the ship, her form casting ethereal shadows across the barren landscape. For all her celestial grace, there was vulnerability in her expression tonight, a flicker of uncertainty that mirrored his own. Daniel swallowed hard, his heart pounding against his ribs. This moment wasn't just about them. It was about bridging two worlds, proving that connection transcended biology and borders. As she approached, her bare feet barely disturbing the dust beneath her, Daniel realized how much he wanted this, to stand beside her not as a scientist or an explorer but as someone who simply loved her. The thought terrified him, exhilarated him, and filled him with a sense of purpose he'd never known before. Taking a deep breath, Daniel stepped forward, closing the distance between them. His throat tightened as he opened his mouth, unsure whether his voice would betray the storm raging inside him. "Lyria," he began, his tone trembling but earnest, "there's something I need to say." Her luminous eyes widened slightly, catching the soft glow of the stars overhead. She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made his knees weak. It was a gesture she often used when trying to understand human behavior, but tonight it felt heavier, laden with anticipation. "I know we're different," Daniel continued, fumbling for the right words. "You're from a place I can't even begin to imagine, and I'm just a guy from a tiny planet spinning around an ordinary star. But none of that matters to me. Not anymore." His fingers brushed against the velvet box in his pocket, drawing strength from its presence. "When I look at you, I don't see an alien princess or some impossible dream. I see someone who makes me want to be better, who makes me believe in things I thought were only stories." He paused, searching her face for any sign of how she might react. Her lips parted slightly, though no sound or thought escaped. Encouraged by her silence, he pressed on. "I've spent my whole life looking up at the stars, wondering if anyone else was out there. And then you came along, and suddenly the universe didn't feel so lonely anymore. You showed me beauty I didn't think existed, kindness I didn't deserve, and a future I couldn't have dreamed of." Daniel took another step closer, his voice steadying as determination replaced fear. "So here's the thing, I don't care about the rules or what people will say. I don't care about the risks or how crazy this might seem. All I care about is you. Lyria. His hand finally slipped into his pocket, retrieving the small box. With shaking fingers, he opened it, revealing the delicate silver band inside. It shimmered faintly, engraved with patterns that reflected both Earth's simplicity and her world's complexity. Will you marry me? The words hung in the air, suspended between them like stardust caught in a cosmic breeze. Time seemed to freeze as Daniel waited, his chest rising and falling with labored breaths. Every second stretched into eternity, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. He watched as Lyria's gaze dropped to the ring, her shimmering skin reflecting its glow in mesmerizing waves. For a moment she said nothing, her expression unreadable, a blend of awe, confusion, and something deeper he couldn't quite decipher. Then, slowly, her cheeks began to change color. At first, it was subtle, a faint blush spreading across her radiant features, like sunlight breaking over the horizon. But as seconds passed, the hue deepened, becoming more pronounced, until her entire face glowed with a warm, rosy luminescence. It was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen, a reaction so uniquely hers that it left him momentarily speechless. Lyria raised a hand to her cheek, as if surprised by the heat blooming beneath her touch. Her lips parted again, and this time, a soft laugh bubbled forth, not in mockery or dismissal, but in sheer delight. The sound was melodic, resonating directly in Daniel's mind, carrying with it a kaleidoscope of emotions. Joy, disbelief, and a hint of nervousness that mirrored his own. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice wrapping around him like silk. Though her words lacked volume, they carried immense weight, each one pulsing with sincerity. This is not something I expected. Humans are so bold, aren't they? Daniel chuckled nervously, scratching the back of his neck. Well, yeah, sometimes we are. But this isn't just about being bold. It's about wanting to share everything with you. To build something together, no matter how impossible it seems. Lyria's eyes softened, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that made his heart skip a beat. Impossible, she repeated, savoring the word as though testing its shape on her tongue. That's what everyone would call us, isn't it? An astronomer from Earth and an ambassador of Altherion. Her voice trailed off, tinged with both wonder and hesitation. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The desert wind whispered around them, carrying grains of sand that sparkled faintly in the starlight. Daniel held his breath, unwilling to interrupt whatever thoughts swirled behind her glowing irises. Finally, Lyria lowered her hand and took a tentative step forward, closing the remaining distance between them. You humans, she said, her tone teasing yet tender, always finding ways to surprise me. Do you realize what you're asking? To bind yourself to someone whose lifespan may stretch centuries beyond yours? To commit to a union that could challenge everything your world believes about mine, and vice versa. Daniel nodded firmly, his resolve unwavering. I do. And I'm not afraid of the challenges. If anything, they make it worth fighting for. Love isn't supposed to be easy, right? It's messy and complicated and terrifying, but it's also the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. And I want to experience it with you. Lyria's blush deepened once more, her radiant skin now glowing so brightly that it illuminated the surrounding desert. She looked away briefly, as if gathering her thoughts, before turning back to him with a mixture of determination and vulnerability. Your courage humbles me, Daniel. Truly. But know this, you're not just proposing to me. You're proposing to embrace a future filled with unknowns. My people, they may not understand. They may see this as reckless, even dangerous. I don't care, Daniel replied without hesitation. Let them see it however they want. All that matters is us. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together. Her smile returned, softer this time but no less genuine. Together, she echoed, the word lingering in the air like a promise. Then, with a playful tilt of her head, she added, though I must admit, I never imagined blushing would be part of this experience. It feels strange, alien, even to me. Daniel laughed, the tension melting away as relief washed over him. Well, maybe that means you're becoming a little more human. And maybe it means you're becoming a little more alien, she countered, her grin widening. A fitting balance, don't you think? Before Daniel could respond, Lyria reached out, her fingers brushing lightly against his. Her touch sent a shiver down his spine, electric yet comforting, as if she were connecting not just with his skin but with his very soul. "Give me time to consider," she murmured, her voice dropping to a whisper. "This decision affects more than just us. But know this, I am honored. Deeply, profoundly honored." With that, she stepped back, her form shimmering faintly as if the night itself was embracing her. Without another word, she turned and ascended gracefully toward her ship, leaving Daniel standing alone beneath the stars. The orb pulsed softly once, then twice, before ascending higher into the sky, disappearing into the infinite expanse above. Daniel stared after her, his heart still racing, the ring clutched tightly in his hand. For all the uncertainty ahead, one thing was clear: tonight had changed everything. Whether their love would endure the trials to come remained to be seen. But for now, hope burned brighter than ever, lighting up the darkness like a supernova. Word of Daniel's proposal spread faster than either of them anticipated. By morning, the quiet desert town of Silver Ridge buzzed with whispers and speculation. Locals gathered at the diner, exchanging theories over cups of coffee while tourists flocked to the observatory, hoping for a glimpse of the mysterious alien ship. Reporters descended upon the area like moths to a flame, their cameras flashing and microphones thrust forward in pursuit of answers Daniel didn't feel equipped to give. At first, he tried to ignore the chaos, retreating to the safety of his small home. But avoidance proved futile when a knock came at his door early one afternoon. Standing on the threshold was Dr. Elena Vasquez, a renowned astrophysicist who had mentored Daniel during his university days. Her sharp eyes scanned him critically, noting the dark circles beneath his weary gaze. "Daniel," she said briskly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "You've caused quite the stir. Care to explain yourself?" He sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Elena, I wish I could tell you it's simple, but it's not. What do you want me to say? That I fell in love with someone extraordinary and decided to act on it." Her expression softened slightly, though skepticism lingered. "Extraordinary doesn't begin to cover it. Do you have any idea what this means? For science, for diplomacy, for humanity itself? This isn't just about you and her. It's bigger than that." Daniel sank onto the couch, feeling the weight of her words settle heavily on his shoulders. "I get it, okay? Believe me, I've thought about all of it. But none of those things mattered when I looked at her. All I saw was possibility. Isn't that what we're always searching for? Proof that we're not alone. That connection is possible, even across galaxies." Elena crossed her arms, her tone firm but not unkind. "Connection is one thing. Commitment is another. Have you considered what kind of scrutiny you'll face? From governments, scientists, conspiracy theorists? People won't just let this go. They'll pick it apart, analyze every detail, twist it into whatever narrative suits them." "I know," he admitted quietly. "But I can't live my life based on what other people think. If I did, I'd never take risks. I'd never reach for something greater than myself." She studied him for a long moment, her gaze piercing yet thoughtful. Finally, she sighed and sat beside him. "Just promise me you'll tread carefully. This isn't just about following your heart, it's about navigating uncharted territory. And trust me, there will be consequences." Meanwhile, Lyria faced her own challenges aboard her ship. News of Daniel's proposal had reached her people through encrypted transmissions, sparking debates among the council members of Altherion. Their reactions ranged from cautious intrigue to outright hostility, with many questioning the wisdom of intertwining their advanced civilization with primitive earthlings. One evening, as Lyria gazed out at the swirling nebulae beyond her viewport, her communicator chimed softly. Activating the holographic display, she found herself face to face with Elder Kale, a respected leader known for his stern demeanor and unwavering dedication to tradition. "Lyria," he began, his voice resonating with authority. "We must discuss your intentions regarding this human. Such a union could jeopardize centuries of progress and stability. Are you prepared to accept the ramifications? Lyria straightened, meeting his gaze with quiet resolve. Elder Kale, I understand your concerns. But dismissing this connection outright dismisses the potential for growth. Humanity may be young and flawed, but they possess qualities we've long forgotten: curiosity, resilience, and an unyielding desire to connect. Kale's expression remained impassive, though a flicker of doubt crossed his features. Qualities that make them unpredictable, dangerous, even. How can you be certain this isn't merely infatuation? A fleeting fascination born of novelty? It isn't, she replied firmly. What I feel for Daniel runs deeper than attraction or curiosity. He sees me, not as an alien, not as a symbol of superiority, but as an equal. As someone worthy of love and respect. Is that not what we strive for as a society? To transcend boundaries and foster understanding. The elder hesitated, his stoic facade cracking slightly. Perhaps. But remember, Lyria, our duty lies not only with ourselves but with our people. Any alliance with Earth must benefit both parties equally. Otherwise, it risks becoming exploitation rather than partnership. I won't allow that to happen, she vowed, her voice steady despite the turmoil brewing within her. Whatever path we choose, it will honor both our worlds. As the transmission ended, Lyria leaned back, exhaling deeply. The weight of expectation pressed down on her, heavier than ever before. Yet amidst the uncertainty, a spark of defiance ignited within her, a reminder that love, no matter how unconventional, deserved a chance to flourish. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted from all sides. Governments demanded statements, scientists clamored for data, and public opinion swung wildly between admiration and disdain. Protesters gathered outside Daniel's home, holding signs that read, "Keep Earth Human," while supporters chanted slogans advocating unity and acceptance. Each day brought new challenges, forcing Daniel and Lyria to navigate a labyrinth of expectations and fears. Despite the chaos, they continued to meet in secret, stealing moments away from prying eyes. Beneath the cover of night, they wandered the desert together, sharing stories and dreams that transcended their respective worlds. These fleeting encounters became their sanctuary, a reminder of why they had chosen this path in the first place. Yet even in these quiet moments, reality loomed large. One evening, as they sat side by side atop a rocky outcrop, Lyria turned to Daniel with a troubled expression. "Do you ever regret this?" she asked softly. "Choosing me, knowing everything it entails?" Daniel reached for her hand, his touch grounding her. "Never. Regret implies doubt, and I've never been surer of anything in my life. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's scary. But love isn't meant to be easy. It's meant to challenge us, to push us beyond what we thought was possible." Lyria smiled faintly, her shimmering skin reflecting the moonlight. "Then perhaps we are stronger together than apart. Perhaps love truly is the greatest force in the universe." As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, they rose to face another day. Together, they stood resilient, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. For in their hearts, they knew one truth above all others. Love, no matter how improbable, was worth fighting for. The sands of Silver Ridge shifted restlessly beneath the weight of change. Each gust of wind carried whispers of uncertainty, mingling with the hopes and fears of those who dared to dream beyond boundaries. Daniel and Lyria's story had become more than just theirs. It was a beacon, igniting conversations that stretched across continents and star systems alike. While some embraced the idea of unity, others recoiled, clinging to notions of division and difference. In the face of such polarized reactions, both lovers found themselves grappling not only with external pressures but also with their own evolving identities. For Daniel, the transition was visceral. Once a man content with charting constellations from afar, he now navigated uncharted emotional terrain. His days were consumed by interviews, debates, and endless questions from strangers who sought to dissect his feelings as if they were specimens under a microscope. Some praised him as a pioneer, a visionary brave enough to bridge worlds. Others condemned him as reckless, accusing him of jeopardizing humanity's fragile place in the cosmos. The constant scrutiny wore on him, carving lines of exhaustion into his face and planting seeds of doubt in his mind. Yet amidst the noise, there were moments of clarity, fleeting glimpses of why he'd embarked on this journey in the first place. Late at night, when the reporters finally retreated and the protesters' chants faded into silence, he'd sit alone in his dimly lit living room, staring at the ring still tucked safely in its velvet box. Touching it reminded him of the purity of his intention, the raw honesty of his proposal. Love wasn't meant to be rational or convenient. It was messy, imperfect, and utterly human. And though Lyria wasn't human, her capacity for compassion and understanding transcended any label society might assign her. Lyria, too, faced her own reckoning. Back aboard her ship, she endured heated discussions with her council, each session growing tenser than the last. The elders argued passionately, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of concern and conviction. Some viewed Daniel's proposal as an opportunity, an unprecedented chance to forge alliances and expand their influence across the galaxy. Others saw it as a threat, warning that entangling themselves with Earth's volatile politics could destabilize centuries of progress. Through it all, Lyria listened intently, absorbing their perspectives without letting them sway her resolve. What troubled her most, however, wasn't the opposition. It was the reflection she saw in their eyes. For the first time, she recognized fragments of herself, hesitation masked as caution, fear disguised as wisdom. She understood their reluctance because she shared it. Loving Daniel meant stepping into the unknown, abandoning the comfort of familiarity for the chaos of possibility. It meant risking rejection, not just from her people but from the universe itself, which seemed determined to keep them apart. Still, she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him, a gravitational force stronger than any black hole. When they met in secret, hidden beneath the vast canopy of stars, she allowed herself to forget the weight of expectation. In those moments, she wasn't an ambassador or a symbol of her race. She was simply a being in love, yearning for connection as deeply as any creature in existence. Their conversations ranged from light-hearted musings about Earth's peculiar customs to profound discussions about the nature of belonging. Daniel taught her the beauty of imperfection, the way cracks in pottery could be filled with gold, rendering broken things more valuable than whole ones. In turn, she introduced him to concepts from her world, the art of resonant harmony, where individuals synchronized their thoughts to create melodies no single voice could produce alone. These exchanges fortified them, giving them strength to face the battles ahead. But even as their bond deepened, external forces conspired to test it. Political tensions escalated when Earth's governments began demanding formal negotiations with Altherian, framing Daniel and Lyria's relationship as a bargaining chip rather than a personal choice. Meanwhile, factions within Altherian grew increasingly vocal, threatening to sever ties with Earth entirely if Lyria pursued the Union. Caught between these opposing tides, Daniel and Lyria found themselves questioning whether their love could survive the storms raging around them. One evening, as they stood together beneath the shadow of her ship, Lyria turned to Daniel with a mixture of sadness and determination. "Do you think we're foolish?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the wind. "To believe we can defy so many odds?" Daniel shook his head, reaching for her hand. "Foolish? No. Hopeful. Yes. There's a difference. Hope isn't blind optimism. It's the courage to keep going even when the odds are stacked against you. And right now, I need you to hold on to that courage, Lyria. Because whatever happens next, we'll face it together." Her shimmering skin brightened slightly, a sign of gratitude mixed with resolve. "Then let's prepare for whatever comes," she said, her voice firm despite the tremor beneath it. "Because I refuse to let fear dictate our future." The days that followed were a blur of negotiations, protests, and whispered conversations held in shadowed corners. Daniel and Lyria stood at the center of it all, their love becoming both a symbol of hope and a lightning rod for division. Governments demanded transparency, scientists sought data, and activists on both sides argued vehemently about the implications of their union. Yet through the chaos, they clung to each other with quiet determination, refusing to let fear dictate their future. Finally, after weeks of deliberation, a summit was called, a historic meeting between Earth's leaders and Altherian's council. It would take place aboard Lyria's ship, hovering above the desert where their story had begun. The location was symbolic, chosen to represent neutrality and the fragile balance between two worlds teetering on the brink of either harmony or discord. On the morning of the summit, Daniel woke early, his heart pounding as he prepared for what lay ahead. He dressed carefully, choosing simple but respectful attire, a nod to both his humanity and the gravity of the occasion. As he stepped outside, the air felt electric, charged with anticipation. Reporters lined the perimeter of the landing site, cameras flashing like stars against the dawn. Supporters held signs reading, "Love knows no borders," while detractors shouted warnings of doom. Amidst the cacophony, Daniel focused on one thought: today could change everything. Lyria awaited him inside the ship, her form radiant yet solemn. She greeted him with a soft smile, her shimmering skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm brewing within her. "As ready as I'll ever be," he replied, taking her hand. Together, they walked toward the chamber where the summit would unfold, a circular room bathed in iridescent light, its walls pulsating gently as if alive. Representatives from Earth and Altherian sat on opposite sides, their expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. At the center stood an open space, designed for dialogue but feeling more like a battlefield. Elder Kale opened the proceedings, his deep voice resonating through the chamber. "We gather here not merely to discuss the bond between two individuals, but to determine the fate of our respective civilizations. This is no small matter. It carries consequences that ripple across galaxies." Daniel stepped forward first, his hands trembling slightly as he addressed the assembly. "I understand the concerns many of you have," he began, his voice clear despite the weight of so many eyes upon him. "But this isn't just about me and Lyria. It's about something bigger, about proving that connection can transcend differences. We live in a universe filled with unknowns, yet we continue to reach out, to explore, to seek understanding. Isn't that what love is? A willingness to embrace the unfamiliar, to find beauty in diversity." He paused, glancing at Lyria before continuing. "If we turn away from this opportunity, we're saying that fear is stronger than hope, that division is easier than unity. But I believe we're better than that. Humanity has made mistakes, yes, but we've also shown incredible resilience and compassion. And Lyria's people, they embody wisdom and progress beyond anything we've achieved. Together, we could create something extraordinary." When Daniel finished, the room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. Then Lyria rose, her presence commanding attention without effort. "My people have long valued logic over emotion, structure over spontaneity," she said, her voice resonating deeply. "But perhaps it is time we embraced a different path, one that acknowledges the power of connection. Love is not weakness, it is strength. It challenges us to grow, to adapt, to see the world through someone else's eyes." She turned to face her council, her gaze unwavering. "I do not ask you to abandon your principles or overlook potential risks. But I do ask you to consider the possibilities, to imagine a future where cooperation replaces conflict, where curiosity triumphs over fear. If we are to evolve as a species, we must learn to coexist, not just with others like us but with those who are different." Her words sparked murmurs among the delegates, some nodding thoughtfully while others frowned skeptically. 4 hours, the discussion continued, voices rising and falling like waves. Arguments clashed, compromises were proposed, and tensions flared. Yet beneath it all, a shift began to emerge, a tentative acknowledgement that perhaps this union wasn't merely a threat but an opportunity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden hues across the desert, Elder Kale stood once more. His expression had softened, though his tone remained authoritative. "After much deliberation, we have reached a decision. While uncertainties remain, we cannot deny the potential benefits of fostering greater understanding between our peoples. Therefore, we grant provisional approval for this union, with conditions." A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. Daniel and Lyria exchanged a glance, relief washing over them like a tide. Kale continued, outlining measures to ensure mutual respect and cooperation between Earth and Altherian. Diplomatic exchanges would increase, cultural programs would be established, and safeguards would be put in place to prevent exploitation or harm. When the session concluded, the room erupted into applause, cheers mingling with tears of joy. Outside, crowds gathered, cheering as news of the decision spread. For the first time in weeks, hope seemed to eclipse fear, lighting up faces young and old alike. That night, under a sky ablaze with stars, Daniel and Lyria returned to the rocky outcrop where their journey had truly begun. The wind carried the scent of sagebrush, and the silence was broken only by the distant call of a coyote. They stood side by side, gazing upward as if seeking answers written in the constellations. "We did it," Daniel said softly, his voice filled with awe. "Against all odds, we actually did it." Lyria smiled, her luminous skin reflecting the starlight. "Not alone. We couldn't have done this without those who believed in us, even when we doubted ourselves." He turned to her, cupping her face gently in his hands. "And now, what happens next?" Her eyes sparkled with mischief and warmth. "Now we build. Together. One step at a time." With that, Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, its silver band catching the moonlight. Lyria looked down at it, her blush returning, a radiant glow that lit up the night. In that moment, surrounded by the vastness of the universe, they knew their love was just the beginning. Not perfect, not easy, but real, and infinitely worth it. As they stood there, hand in hand, the horizon glowed brighter, as if the dawn itself couldn't wait to greet them. Their story wasn't ending, it was evolving, blossoming into something neither of them could have imagined.